the hourly rate used to be in here.
That would make it clear,
Absolutely, because it looks like,
because it is something that you don't know for sure. How, you know, if you were out sick
that's right.
for a long period of
Like
time,
I
you
said,
have to be.
that's why we made this budget
Yeah.
to try to keep more, but I've always got the down.
Right.
So if you see
Three a week.
back to work and be here for a month,
Sure.
right day I have to be here.
Yeah,
So we
I
have
couldn't take it a day off.
flexibility.
yeah.
I think those are done. Did you grab it?
No.
Hey, Marianne. Okay, thanks. About 12 hours into my birthday.
I mean, she didn't get it.
Did you want an agenda? Pardon? Did you
Oh,
want an
sure.
agenda?
Yeah.
That's it.
Can I just look at your agenda? Sure. Sorry. Oh, yeah, good, okay. Yeah, I'd be sitting here and find out.
You ready?
All right, we'll open the public hearing on the 2015 budget. Before we take some questions, I'll kind of explain how we got to where we're at. It's looking, according to Comptroller's office, it's gonna be around a 2.5% tax increase. We had some unexpected expenses. Our road grit ran short last winter. The Comptroller's office did an audit on our highway department and says we're about 2.4 million behind on highway maintenance. Our staff, in the meantime, had basically been cut in half over the last 10 years or so, trying to stay in the tax cap. And Delaware County has also had the most natural disasters of any county in the state. And the state seems to neglect to take that into account. That yes, we got reimbursed for the flood damage that we repaired, but in the meantime, our crew was working on roads that had been done maybe 2 or 3 times in the previous 2 or 3 years, and abandoning the roads that needed regular maintenance. So, between the tax cap and some other issues, we had to raise spending in the highway department, and we also had to start budgeting some money for swimming pool operation for next year. So, having said that, I'll open that floor for questions.
Is that a 2.5% increase, or we're just making the state cap on that? That's the only increase total, or what is
That's what the
the?
Comptroller's office formula comes out to.
Yeah. So we're gonna meet that.
No, the state has set it at 1.56 this year, is what they've allowed.
So we're going up another percent.
We're gonna go up above that, yeah. Which if we didn't have road work to catch up and equipment to replace, we might possibly have been able to squeak through with the cap, but given the situation and the fact we came up short on road grit last year, we're gonna have to exceed the cap. So we're looking at about a 2.5%.
Under contractual for judges, we think these are dollars that the judges give us in terms of, their requirements. But it dropped like 60%. I'm just curious as to,
The revenues or?
No, this is in, I guess, appropriations, it's under contractual. It was like $6,200 and it dropped to $2,600.
Which page is it?
Page 1. 1A1110.4.
Those are service contracts and, maintenance contracts that the judge has for equipment and so on. And I know we had some software, there's a change with the software and so on, and contracts with that, it's less now. That's why there's a big change there.
Okay,
I'd like to ask about the justification, that was used for the increase in the bookkeeper's salary. I saw all the salaries remain flat, with the exception of the bookkeeper.
We can thank the state again. The tax cap paperwork that we've had to file for years now, they're putting a tax freeze set of paperwork in place starting this year, which is gonna require another whole set of paperwork. And basically what the state wants us to do is not only stay within the cap, they want us to start going at 0%, and then they want us to actually start reducing by 1% a year from year after next on forward, which I don't know how it's gonna possibly happen, but it's a lot more paperwork to try to justify what's going on here.
Was there any consideration given to possibly, I know times are tight and many of us, I work for the state, I've been given furlough days, getting deferred comp taken out of my paycheck. Is there any consideration of the board or the supervisor, giving back a little bit of their salary to help out the town folk?
We did debate that, and we've split 50-50 on that. Two wanted to reduce our salaries, and two said no.
special items contingency, 191990.4 on page 3. That's going up 11%. Do you have any reason why we're going up that much? Or justification for that? Going from 45,000 to 50,000?
Let me pull my worksheets.
What was the account number?
A1990.4.
And that's in
According to my notes, that was the bookkeeper's recommendation, just because we've been coming so close with overruns the last few years on legal expenses. We've had several lawsuits, and the legal budget was running real close, which hopefully we're done with those days, but to make sure we had money to cover things if we had to, we did boost that line $5,000.
Okay. We cut the attorney's cost from 20,000 down to 10,000, so we're up in this 5,000. Are we trying to cover that?
We're trying to cut the attorney's fees. The attorney fee shows up in two different places. It shows up in the general fund and it shows up in the GOV, government outside the village,
Okay.
for code enforcement. So we've cut it from 20 in both to 10 in both, but we put 5 more in contingency just in case we do run into unforeseen legal expenses, so we don't cut ourselves too short.
We're also looking at possibly different representation than we have now, and the cost is a little less if we go in a different way. We haven't decided that yet, but that's kind of where we're leaning.
We're looking at going on a straight retainer for the year, which would cover basically anything other than litigation.
Okay.
And right now, we're paying by the hour.
Right.
And by the hour, it's tough to control the hours.
Okay, page 5, employee benefits, state retirement, up 35%.
That's state mandate.
Most of that is the pension that has to be paid, and, I mean, if you understand how when the pensions lost money, a few years ago. The state retirement plan requires, it's in the Constitution of the state of New York, that you have to put their money back. So you have to pay the pension that they're getting right now, plus you have to pay whatever the loss was, to make up what that loss was. So everybody, the county, every town is all being hit, has been hit for several years now, with this additional pension funds that have to be paid back. Even though you hear the comptroller say that it's doing better, and it is doing better, because these costs are starting to come down, but everybody still has those additional costs they have to pay. And it's been a heavy thing for not just us, but it's been heavy for the county, you can imagine, with all the people that work there, so. It's a state mandate, they send us a bill, it went up this year, and that's why you're seeing that there.
Yeah. But on the other, in the highway department, it only looks like a 4% increase. I guess that was the confusion that I had. It looked like that number was ballooning and the other one was.
Well, when you look at, the problem we have is that, we have part of the cost that goes to the town-wide, and part of the cost that is just for the town, because we have village and town taxes that come in. Some of those costs go to both, and some of those costs are separated to just the town. So it's a little bit confusing when you see that. Everything has to be split up where it goes, depending on, where the usage is. So it's hard to really say, you might see it be higher in one place than in another because of that.
All right, page 1 under the outside village, again in the contingency account, went up 81%. B1990.4 from 20,000 to 36,000.
From 20,000 to 36,342, is that what you're?
Yep, yep.
Okay. That's exactly the 36,242. Again, that would have to, anytime you see those contingencies, there's money put in for something that may happen. Because
It's a
we
lot
have.
of money for something that may happen.
Yeah, but the thing that confuses me a little bit is it's 36,342.02. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why that is, but give me just a minute and I'll go ask Maggie
Okay.
what that is and why that's gonna
All
happen.
right.
I think it wound up, that was the balance that was left, because we're not raising any, we're not putting any tax levy on the the B account this year. We're carrying over enough money to pay the costs of the B account this year. So if you look at the cover sheet or one of the sheets here, or maybe it's only on my worksheet, on the inside of the first cover page,
Okay.
when you get down to general outside the village, we're carrying over an unexpended balance estimate of $80,000, which puts the amount to be raised by taxes 0. So rather than take that money out and have a negative, we just left it, we're just saying we're not raising any tax money for that account. We're gonna leave what's in there and carry it over. So it will give us a little larger contingency in that line this year. And if we don't need it, then we can reduce it again next year. But I think that was just to leave it at a 0% for the government outside the village line.
Safety inspections, it looks like the code enforcer is taking a pay cut. Is that what that's about?
That's what that's about.
Okay.
We're trying to get the salaries back in line with the rest of the county. At Bay Mead, we're gonna have a part-time, it may be 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But, building permits, building is down. I mean, everybody knows the economy around here is not good. And that was one of the areas that, if you take, we get the printouts from the county for all the towns, and it just, to get more in line with what the county is paying across the board, that's what the board decided. And, needless to say, it was not a popular decision.
And that rolls into social security, the social security numbers are down by 11%, so that's
Right,
the
but
impact of that.
It saves on all the other associated costs.
Under the joint youth program, on page 2, contractual for B7320.4, is that the pool?
Yes, that was the pool.
Where are you?
On page 2, Al, under outside the village,
Beef on page 2.
joint youth program. B7320.4.
Yes, that is right.
That's the pool. Is that, somebody with, are these lifeguards and stuff, what is that?
Basically, this money, of course, with 2015, the pool, probably if we do get to open it, won't be open until the very end of things. So this money is basically for the operation of that, yeah. If that happens, and it does get open in time.
And is there funding also coming from inside the village for that?
Yes.
The village
Section of
should
the
be-
budget, so there's a component involved.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, both will be footing the bill.
Yeah.
I noticed that the cleaner salary was zeroed out. Does that mean one of you is volunteering to come in and clean the hall?
No.
Okay.
The reality is basically, is that in the past, that position was an employee. And this board feels that that position can be something that can be done by an outside contract, cheaper. Because with an employee, there's benefits, well, when I say benefits, let me back up on that. There's social security paid and all of that.
Clerk.
We've been doing some research as to what it costs to have somebody clean, and we feel it can be done less than what we're paying right now. You know, people are just gonna have to realize that, you know, with these constraints that we have, with this, trying to stay in this 1.5%, it's impossible. We have to find a way, because our revenues are down, the only thing we can do is change the way services are going to be delivered here in the town. Now, if people don't like that, then we can increase taxes, but I don't think people want their taxes going up any more than they need to. And change is tough. Every time you make a change, somebody doesn't like it. But the reality is it can't just be the way it always has been. There's things going on with this budget that I don't like, and I wish we didn't have to do it. But the reality is it has to happen. And it's unfortunate. But if the majority of people were to come to this board and say, we don't want these changes, and we want to pay higher taxes, and we want to keep doing things the way we're, fine, we can do that. But the reality is that this is tough times. And with these mandates and the state telling us how we're gonna run the town, and problems with our roads, and, you know, and you don't see new people moving in here. This place is not booming. There's no new tax revenues really coming in anymore. So, this is what we're dealing with. And like I said, I don't like it any more than anybody else does, but it's a fact of life, and you have to deal with it.
Not gonna get easier.
It's just gonna get worse. Next year will be worse than it is this year.
Yep.
Because this year, we were lucky enough that we did have some funds that we could work with, that FEMA had sent to us, that was owed to the town. We won't have those monies next year. And I don't know where the monies are gonna come from. I really don't. Because next year, they want this cap is gonna be less than it is this year.
It'll be 1% next year. Then we'll have a pool too, to fully fund.
Which is gonna have to run on donations. The pool committee is gonna have to continue to
Fundraise for the
fundraise.
entire year.
And that's how that's gonna have to be taken care of. And through other grants and so on that will be available out there to run.
I just find it interesting that the board's tightening everybody's belt with their own.
Well, we're not taking any raise. You know,
Well, I
we're
understand
not-
taking no raise, I mean,
Right.
I'm an elected fire commissioner and we get
Mhm.
0 for salary. It's a public service thing you choose to do. So even, you know, when everybody else is tightening, sometimes it would seem like you might take a 2 or 3% cut, like, but that's the
Well, we
board's
get paid
decision.
a lot of money to do this job. And really, if we did cut ours, it wouldn't make that much difference to the budget. I hear what you're saying.
I
hear what
understand,
you're
but
saying.
it's just, you know, when
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir, so to speak,
Oh, I
sometimes.
feel the same, I understand
So,
that.
I just, Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
and I'm
the-
actually.
you know, that was the discussion of the board. Some felt it was a symbolic
Mhm.
move. The others are looking at what the councilman and the supervisor receive here versus other towns, and we're not on the high side. There's a lot of smaller towns that are being paid considerably more. And, that's what it came down to, is it, you know, is a symbolic move worth it, when it's not gonna change the bottom dollar of the percentage? And that's where we split. Two said it wasn't worth it, two said it was, and, with only 4 members on the board, that's where it wound up. It's a wash.
I have a couple comments, which are just general comments, not really question. But you're probably well aware, Article 7, Section 104, the Open Meetings Law, that you have to post notices about the budget hearing and your meetings. I noticed on the way in, the signboard says you meet the second month, but there was no posting of this hearing.
Yeah,
It's also supposed to be posted on the bulletin board.
It was in the Walton Reporter and the Delaware County Times.
Right, it's also supposed to be posted on signboard, and it's also supposed to be conspicuously posted on the website. All of the meetings of this board are absent on the website. So I just offer that you're really opening yourselves possibly to an Article
Meetings should
78.
be on the website.
I think maybe
I could
this past
find,
month,
I could find all the trails, hiking trails in Delhi. I couldn't find anything about your meeting schedule. It has
Have
to be
you-
conspicuously
I think
posted.
you're right that in the past month, they weren't listed there, and that's my fault, but I think if you look back over the past year, you'll see every single
Right.
meeting posted.
Well, I'm just making you aware because,
Okay, but I
you know,
wanna make
people that are
you,
relying on that weren't here.
please check the website more frequently, and you'll see that it's
You've
there.
opened yourselves for the opportunity for someone to file an Article 78 against this board and this budget and get it thrown out. It's only gonna take one taxpayer who says you didn't post proper notice, appeal it, the state's gonna review it and say they aren't. So I want, all I would say is I would encourage you to talk to legal counsel before you adopt this budget, because I have those concerns and I wanted to share them openly with you.
A few more items.
Sure.
Snow removal, personal services,
Mhm.
up 18%. That wasn't a contract we negotiated for increases, or is that another payroll cycle that's gotta go
We
through
have
for
a
that?
we have a new person coming on for one, a
Okay.
new, full-time person, because Darren, his slot has always been held open.
Okay.
So now he is officially, the new superintendent after January, so his position will be filled.
And that would follow suit with the 10% increase on general repairs, personal services, that would be during the year, type thing, versus snow removal, same thing.
Right.
Under the equipment, page 1, I guess, of the outside village, DB 5110.2. We didn't spend any of the $120,000 we budgeted. What was that money budgeted for that we didn't spend it?
What was the number on that again?
DB 5110.2.
Okay, one of the reasons for that is that we had money from FEMA that we're able to use for this equipment. So we don't need to have that line item as high as it was before. We're still purchasing equipment, but it's funds that we had reimbursed. So that's why that's different. That's why it's not, it's actually, it came from a bridge project, basically, the funds. And we've been waiting for about 3 years to get that money back. And so we've spent you know, I mean, we've not had that money. So that money is gonna be used for this purchase of some equipment that we're getting.
So
So
that
we
money
don't have
was,
to
what,
keep
that
that
money,
line.
what, we did spend some of that money, but it's not sure, not being booked there, is that what's, the 120,000, I guess that was question. Not the 40 that's coming in this year, it was the 120 that we had budgeted for last year,
For last,
to do some kind of equipment work. Was that, is that, we didn't spend anything of that money, or we spent FEMA money to do that?
we've spent that money.
Yeah, not all of it's been taken out yet, because it's
Right.
not all here.
We've got some big
Well, we have a new
expenditures
truck
coming
that
up.
we haven't paid
Haven't paid anything
on,
yet.
on that one yet.
It's still, pretty much will, it's still coming out.
Okay. It just,
Yeah.
you don't see anything there, and that's,
We've got a new
that's the
truck
concern.
ordered that we haven't paid any money on yet,
Okay.
because we haven't taken delivery. And we just bought a used truck to replace the one that was destroyed by fire. And that bill is in,
It's in tonight.
abstract tonight.
It's in there.
It's in there.
And that was what, 49,000?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah.
So there are two big purchases that will
So,
be coming out.
yeah, that money will be gone.
a couple of lines down from there, we're rolling over $100,000 in CHIPS money.
Right.
We're gonna be able to do $279,000 worth of capital highway improvements this year?
We hope so.
I'm just questioning, I'm
It-
just,
so.
and it's a lot, that's a lot, you know, I
It
mean,
adds up really quick though,
Okay.
Will, by the time the roads are sealed, or pub mill, actually it'll just be sealing, but adds up really, really quick.
okay?
Darren has a very aggressive program put together.
I've seen his work and I know he does, so. That was it for me.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just wanted to thank you for the work you put in the budget. I know there's a lot of difficult things and, you know, serving on the fire board, we have similar costs that are outside our control, so. You know, it seems like you put a lot of thought into what you presented, so.
Yeah, we've lost a little sleep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Well, if there's no more comments, I'll close the public hearing then. We ready to go into the regular meeting? Pages. Too many pages. All right, we'll call the regular meeting to order. You want to lead us in the pledge of allegiance, Al?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up for privilege of the floor, Janet Ayers.
Thank you. Now my little thing. Now, I'm going to speak quickly, and I've got this down to like a 3-minute segment.
You're good then.
Yeah, I hope I even got my stopwatch. I'm Janet Wentworth Erickson. I always throw in the Wentworth name because that's how I'm known. I'm the SUCO faculty where I teach. I have a grant to do an art project, a portrait project for unsung community heroes. It's a grant I applied for, and the grant covers both Otsego and Delaware counties. I'm in the process of applying for a grant, strictly for Delaware County to enhance my ability to represent Delaware County. What I I'm here to tell everyone about this because, after, I went to the town council, or city council, I should say, in Otsego County, unbeknownst to me, but it was a nice thing, a newspaper article was written